Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching. This is the revival episode of Backyard Buckets, brought to you by Backyard Sports. Got a couple new guys, new faces to the Backyard family. Ryan, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Excited to kick this off. Appreciate you joining. Bentley, how are you, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk some of the best sport in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And we got the NBA Finals coming up, so good time to kind of kick things back off. We've got Denver, we've got Miami. Jimmy Butler leading the upstart Miami Heat, lowest seed to make the finals since the Knicks in, I believe, 1999. And Nikola Jokic leading the one seed Nuggets into the finals. Two-time Nikola Jokic, probably should have been three-time, but results on the court are more important to him, as you can tell from all of his post-series interviews. He's more excited about being in the NBA Finals than worrying about Joel Embiid winning an MVP. So let's kick it over your way, Ryan. Talk to me about what Denver's got to do to win this series.
I think they just got to play their game. I think that's the easy thing. I think they're the big favorites for a reason. I think they're super versatile offensively, and that's what gives everybody they play so much trouble.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
ability to do as much as they can, and honestly, just don't have a terrible 4 games.
Yeah,
That's how they win.
yeah, for sure. When you're such a heavy favorite, you're the proverbial favorite here in this series. You kind of the easy answer is always to kind of go to just do what you've been doing. Don't screw it up. Don't be rusty, right? You kind of expect a little bit of rust in game one if you can kick it off in time to not fall down at home. I think you got to feel pretty good as this heavy of a favorite. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Bentley, what do you think from Denver? You agree with Ryan? You got anything additional you want to kind of throw in there for Denver to take care of business here against Miami?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all understand that Denver comes in a huge favorite, right? And they've kind of steamrolled their way through the playoffs. The only hiccups that I really see that could affect Denver is something that they didn't exhibit in the previous series, which I know sounds kind of strange, right? But game three against the Lakers, they went on the road. And if you watch that game, everyone knew the refs were on the Lakers side, right? But it didn't matter because Denver was so much better, right? If that happens again in Miami, which for my personal opinion is a better sports town than is Los Angeles, that Heat crowd is not going to roll over, and neither is that Heat team the way that the Lakers kind of did, right? So if Denver goes on the road and Jamal's not hitting and Jokic gets in foul trouble a little early, I could definitely see them losing one or two on the road, and it wouldn't shock me in like the least, truthfully, because this Heat team is very good. But like Ryan said, I mean they're a huge favorite for a reason. Really, all that they got to do is kind of not throw this series away, and we all kind of expect it to go that direction, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're all kind of on board. And for me, it's, the biggest thing for Denver, I think, is going to be, can Jamal Murray continue to be what we've seen from Jamal Murray, right? Him and Jokic in that pick and roll with Jokic's vision off the pick and roll. They can run it. It don't matter who's got the ball. They're both going to run that pick and roll at the top of the key. And Jamal Murray's been getting buckets in, bucketfuls, basically, for lack of a better metaphor. He's been fucking white hot the entire playoffs. And, short of, you mentioned the game three in LA, and I think he had one game in the series against Minnesota where he didn't shoot the ball extremely well. He's been phenomenal all playoffs. And I think that's been a huge reason why Denver has been able to withstand a lot of the punches that they've had thrown at them by Phoenix, right? And by LA, with LeBron and AD. So I think that's the biggest thing, right? Just take care of your business, make your shots, and continue to be who you've been in the playoffs. Don't try to get cute, right? Miami's going to have to get cute, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But you don't have to get cute if you're Denver. Execute, and I think we're all in agreement they should take care of business in this series if they do that. So let's switch gears, Bentley. Going back to you here, Miami. Talk to me about what they've got to do to win this series.
So, in my opinion, the best thing that Miami can do here, they're going to have to push the pace, right? That's just kind of all there is to it. They don't stand a chance playing against Denver in a half court type of game. Denver, you mentioned Joel Embiid winning the MVP over Jokic. A large reason that happened was because Jokic kind of didn't play defense for February and March, right? He just kind of, for one reason or another, he decided to opt out of playing on the defensive end, which is totally fine. That's for his prerogative, two-time MVP. I got it. Um, but obviously they've ramped it back up in the playoffs. So if Miami expects to get into a half court game with this Denver team, I just think it's going to go poorly for them. So along with pushing the pace, they're going to have to shoot the hell out of the ball. Like they just are. Cam Vincent, Caleb Martin, who's been a star out of nowhere. Duncan
He
Robinson.
could have won the MVP in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't think anybody would have complained.
Not at all. He probably should have. Some people might say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
sitting in this room here right now by themselves might have said that. But again, they could have been anybody. But yeah, they're gonna have to shoot the hell out of the ball. As we mentioned earlier offline, they've got a ton of undrafted guys, and like you might think that's to the detriment, but these are guys who some of them were here 2 years ago, some of them were not, but like they're not going to shy away from the moment. Spo's got these guys so in line and marching to the beat of their own drum that like I don't think anything's going to phase these dudes. And it would shock me if they put up really poor shooting performances by themselves. Now Denver's defense might have something to say about that, whatever. But if they're getting open shots like they did against the Celtics, I think they average distance from nearest defender on the 3-point shots in Game 7 was like 7 feet. If they can replicate that against Denver, I think they're going to be able to shoot the ball really, really well. And shooting the ball really well and pushing the pace, I think, is something that they could use to potentially win the series, honestly.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Spo, and I'm going to ask a question before we get Ryan's thoughts on Miami. Is Erik Spoelstra the best coach in the NBA right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, it's like 3 to 5 guys, and he's definitely in that list. It's so hard to be granular once you reach the level of the best.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, he's in the list for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
And Pat Riley too. I mean, that's a huge part of that.
Right. And I mean, I can't think of anybody in the league right now that's done more with less, right? And I shouldn't say less, but in the traditional cliche, right? These 9 undrafted guys that Bentley just mentioned, right? You're doing all of this with that many guys that teams, including your own team, just kind of overlooked, and then you put them in your development system, and suddenly you've got a guy in Caleb Martin whose brother got drafted and he didn't, and Caleb was a more highly touted high school prospect, yet he goes undrafted, and then now he's arguably the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So that development system, you mentioned Pat Riley, especially with the culture there in Miami. We talk a lot about culture, and I think it gets thrown around too much sometimes, but I think it's a real thing with the Heat that they just want to create these players that fit their scheme, that fit their system, that fit their mentality, and they grind, right? And it's a lot to get professional athletes, especially in today's kind of prima donna player run leagues that we have, to get them to buy into the grind, right? The grind house that is Miami. You think back to like Memphis when they were kind of playing that way as well. That's sort of what I look at Miami right now, that they're getting these guys to buy in. And that says a lot about that leadership team. All right, Ryan, talk to me. Miami, how do they win this series, man?
Well, I'm glad you talked about Spoelstra, because I think that's going to be a huge key is Spoelstra out coaching Malone. And Michael Malone's a great coach. I think using Jokic the way he has, and I'll bring that up a little bit later too, but it's not a huge differential, but I think Spoelstra does have some things he can do. I think some of the things I think about with Miami in the previous series was their use of the zone, right? You see a lot of people talked about that. Everybody really talked about it. Denver is great against the zone.
They kill the zone.
Yeah.
Number 1 rated team in the NBA against zone defenses.
Yeah. So when
you
does
got to
zone
play better than other teams do in the zone?
Right. Yeah. When do you use the zone? I think like against the Bruce Brown run second team is probably when that comes out. He's a lot smarter than me, but that seems like the logical thing. I think some of the things in the half court, because Bentley said they got to run, right? And I agree, but you have to execute to some extent in the half court. You're not going to be able to win. I think their dribble handoff game is going to be tough for Denver to keep up with a little bit. Murray's not an amazing defender. Getting Jokic into these pseudo DHO pick and roll type things they do a lot, right? The Duncan Robinson ones, the Max Strus ones, even without the ball, they do it, a lot of off ball screens and stuff, chasing guys on the perimeter. They're going to have to shoot lights out. And part of that is getting the good looks. their issue really, I think, is going to come down to inside the arc. They have huge issues inside the arc. I don't think they get good shots, inside the 3-point line. It's really Jimmy Butler shooting baseline jumpers over and over again, which is, not the offense. Bam's got to be aggressive, I think. And I think part of that aggression with him, my last X and O comment is, I think the inverted pick and roll could be a really valuable tool that Miami uses. Jokic never defends the pick and roll ball handler, right? Like, it's very clear and obvious why he does that. I think forcing, Bam running it with maybe Butler setting the pick and running that could be a very useful a tool that Malone's going to figure out how to adjust to. And I think it could give them some benefit in the half court, which they really need, because they're going to get dominated on the defensive end, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Agree with both of what you said. The other thing I'll just throw out there, they're going to have to grind Denver into dust. Basically, the way they did Boston, the way they did New York, and the way they did against Milwaukee, they're going to have to grind them. And I wonder, Bentley, you mentioned running them. I wonder at altitude, does that backfire in games 1 and 2, or can Miami run Denver, ragged with, as Ryan mentioned, the dribble handoffs, the off-ball screens, and we've always seen kind of Golden State, right? And it's always flashy because they're the ones that shoot threes from the half court, from the logo and whatnot. But like Miami runs a lot of that similar offense to what Golden State does. A lot of motion off the ball, a lot of running in and out of bounds, and kind of running defenses ragged. I wonder how much the altitude in Denver is going to play a factor for a team like Miami that likes to run a lot of motion offense. And you do think that they're going to want to get up and down, because Ryan mentioned the size deficiency. Because even if you get Jokic off of Bam, you've got a guy in Michael Porter Jr. or you've got a guy in Aaron Gordon who can be physical and go toe-to-toe with a Bam, who's going to be that second guy that can be, that size, provider in the key. And maybe it's the middle school principal, as we like to call him. Maybe it's Zeller coming off the bench and doing a little bit of that in terms of just being physical, not necessarily scoring the bucket a lot, but being physical and providing some of that, and rebounding, right? He's a pretty good rebounder, especially off the bench. So it's going to be, I'm going to be really curious to see, you guys mentioned Spo. I really think that it's going to come down to how they can guard that pick and roll at the top of the key. Is Bam going to be able to hedge well enough to allow that off-ball defender to be able to recover? Or even if he's the off-ball defender, is he going to be able to, play that properly to keep Jamal Murray from getting that space? And Bentley, you mentioned the space that Miami gets, right? Are they going to be able to create 7 feet of space against a taller Denver team? Because even Boston, right? Boston would have had a size deficiency against Denver. Athleticism, they would have matched up, right? And then I think Miami matches up fairly well athletically, but size-wise, Denver's longer. Michael Porter Jr. is 6'10" with a wingspan of like 7'2". Aaron Gordon's 6'8", 6'9" with a wingspan around 6'10". So they've got some length that's going to be able to defend a lot of that kind of movement with the ball and off the ball. Quick question before we switch topics here. My dad's curious what we think about the Lakers getting handled the way they did. I don't know that any of us saw maybe a sweep coming. I honestly thought when Denver went up 2-0, 3-0, I thought we were going to see what we saw more in game 3 in terms of Jokic getting in foul trouble early, but Denver was able to weather that storm. What does this mean in terms of the Lakers just getting kind of the brakes beat off of them the way that they did? Is this offseason going to be a revamp for the Lakers, or do we think the midseason trades still work for them going forward, and maybe it's 1 or 2 pieces? Kyrie Irving's out there. Are they going to maybe move D'Angelo and come back to Kyrie? Ryan, let's go your way first. What do you think for the Lakers? What does this mean?
I like the Lakers a lot. I think that the trades they made at the deadline were great. I think they filled a lot of the needs that they have. Their problem is their second best player is not getting any younger, and he has more miles than anyone has ever had on him, and I think that's really tough. And the Nuggets are a better team. So it's not shocking. It's not like I think the Lakers should have pulled it out. And a lot of those games were competitive. It's not like they lost by 30, every single night. Like there was, I think, a 6-point loss. I think like a 4 and 8 point loss. They were competitive. A couple shots go. they need some shooting is going to be the big thing. I think Vanderbilt was a great trade, but he cannot shoot the ball to save his life, and that's a
Great
negative.
defender.
Yeah, he's a one way guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's a good rebounder for his size. Like but they need some shooting. But I like a lot of their pieces. It's just how long can LeBron go that deep into the playoffs and not kill his body?
Yeah, for sure. Bentley, what do you think? Lakers, you're laughing over there when Ryan said he really likes the Lakers. Talk to me.
Well, you mentioned the midseason trade. I mean, they traded for Ryan's favorite NBA player of the last like 4 years. One Gonzaga well, maybe not alum. One Gonzaga legend, Rui Hachimura, coming over from Washington. I mean, nobody. Well, I don't want to say nobody. I, as a Wizards fan, did not see 18 points a game and 6 rebounds and defending Jokic as much as anyone can.
I think that's what we Wizards fans hoped for when we drafted him, but he never became that. And I think the freedom that he had within the Lakers offense might have kind of led to that.
Yeah, and they were competitive, like we said, but they were playing a different game, man. Like, their offense was high pick and roll with LeBron on a bum foot, with Anthony Davis, who's not aggressive.
Yeah.
And they just tried to out defend the Nuggets, and it just didn't work. I mean, the Nuggets. This is about the Lakers. The Lakers were a good team after the trade deadline, right? They were a really good team after the trade deadline. But like Ryan said, they need shooting, man. Like you can't. The formula we've seen over and over and over again with LeBron James is LeBron and shooters.
Yep. When he's won, that's been the formula. When they don't have shooters, that team isn't successful. It doesn't matter if it was Cleveland, Miami, now LA. If they don't have shooters around LeBron, they're not going to be successful.
Yeah. And Ryan said it, Vando, great defensive player.
Yep.
Hit the side of the backboard on multiple 3-pointers in that series against Denver.
He's
like,
a piece,
come on, dude.
But maybe not a critical piece.
Yeah, he's like, he's the Iman Shumpert of that team. From, shout out 2016 Cleveland.
Shout out. There's a throwback name.
But he just can't. He's not the offensive player that Shumpert was. It's like, I don't know how. I think that they overachieved a little bit on the season. They probably should have lost to Golden State, truthfully. But LeBron, he just ran out of gas, dude. He was pulling up from 28 feet and hitting for an iron multiple times in fourth quarters.
Yeah.
And even in Game 4, when they completed the sweep, he had 30 at halftime and finished the game with 40.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
had nothing left in the tank.
If you're Anthony Davis watching that, like, yikes.
Yeah. I mean, at least he wasn't watching it in street clothes.
I want to add one thing about that because I think, a lot of people have talked about LeBron's legacy and how much this series affected it. I think that's a ridiculous thing. All the people talking about that. LeBron is a top, even in the most bearish opinion, is a top 5 player all time. Yeah. And one series losing to the team he's supposed to lose to, the Nuggets were better all year.
1 seed versus the 7 seed. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. No matter how good they were after the trade deadline, and they were good. Like his legacy is cemented. He could retire tomorrow, and he's one of the greatest of all time. I think people are too short sighted, and what was any star doing at that age?
Yeah.
Not just at that age, but year 20. Yeah, I mean, ruining ball. Yeah, buying teams they shouldn't be buying.
This man set the scoring record in the NBA this same calendar year. Yeah. And people were like, "Oh, he got swept out of the playoffs."
And average like 27,
he had 40 in a closeout game. Like, granted, he ran out of juice, but still 40 in a closeout game.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean,
if you told me he was 25 and averaging what he's averaging now, I'd be like, man, that guy's incredible.
Yeah, he's going to be so good when he matures.
He's 40. He's one of the best players ever already.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think his post-game interview after Game 4 tells us a lot about how his body felt, how he felt mentally exhausted, but also just physically gassed and drained. And I think, Ryan, you mentioned he's the second best player on the team. I think they're going to have to this offseason find that third piece. If it's Kyrie, I don't know who it's going to be, but
Wait, did you say he's the second best player on that team? Who said that?
Ryan did.
You said he's the second best player on the Lakers team.
Yeah, Davis is the better player right now.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
I know how you feel about that, but
Rui Hachimura might be better than Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
Anthony Davis does disappear. I agree with that.
That's like saying Jaylen Brown is better than Caleb Martin, when very clearly Caleb Martin is the better player. Come on.
Right. Yeah. No opinions needed.
Sorry, I just disagree with
to.
LeBron being the second best player on that team. I didn't hear you
I think
say
they are
that
going to have
time.
to get 3 deep this offseason, though. And if it's Kyrie, if it's somebody else that ends up being, maybe they find a way to swing a trade for like a Dame Lillard or something along those lines. I'd love to see Dame Lillard win before he retires, because he's been one of the most fun players to watch in the league, but 2, a guy who's really tried to kind of, weather the storm up there in Portland, as they've tried to put some pieces around him, but it's just never seemed to work out. I'd love to see Dame Lillard win. So if it ends up being a trade that they can swing, I don't know how they make the money work necessarily to keep what they've got and just add Dame Lillard to it. But something where they're not asking LeBron to be a 40, 45, 46 minute a night, 35 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists, right? They can't ask him to just be that guy until he's 45 fucking years old, when Bronny's finally done with his excursion at USC.
His 3-year college tenure.
Yeah. I don't blame him. Shit, he's got a big NIL deal. Daddy's LeBron James. He's gonna be living the life.
Oh yeah.
In LA. So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit here, and let's start talking about kind of picks, right, for the series. So, Ryan, who you got winning this and why? And in how many games? I want to hear how many games.
Yeah,
there you go.
I think it's pretty clear. I think the Nuggets are the obvious favorite. I think they're the better team. I think they should win this pretty handedly. So I got them winning in 5. A gentleman's sweep, because they're nice guys. I think a lot of the playoff Jimmy Butler stuff is overblown. I do agree that he's better in the playoffs, but I think, from an analytics perspective, that stuff tails off. He'll have bad games and we just ignore it, basically. The narrative is that he's this dominant force, singular, and he's gonna will his team to victory. And going through Jokic in that will is gonna be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Bentley, agree, disagree? How many games you got?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll preface my pick by saying that it would shock me if Miami wins, but I do think that there's a path forward for them to win this series. Now, my pick is Nuggets in 5, but I think that there is a very real path for Miami to win this game, just due to the simple fact that if you remember who they played in round 1, it was Milwaukee, and Giannis didn't play in 2 of those games. It's like you're one ankle turn away from Jokic not playing in 2 games, and I mean, anything can happen.
Wood right now.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to see it either. I want to watch the best basketball players play basketball, right? But for the simple fact that Jokic is the best player in the world, like Ryan said, Michael Malone's a great coach. And they just have so much more talent up and down their roster, and they're so much bigger. Like, who's guarding Michael Porter Jr.? Is Max Strus guarding Michael Porter Jr.?
Gabe Vincent.
Point guard Gabe Vincent.
But only from the waist down. Put the ball on the floor. He's got
it. We'll give Kyle Lowry one leg and Gabe Vincent the other, and see what they can do. But that's not a knock against the Heat guys. They're in the finals, you can't knock them for anything, right? But I don't see it. What do you do on defense against this Nugget team? That we talked about the zone earlier, right? And zone played a huge part in Miami getting here, because Boston doesn't know how to run a functional offense at any level of the sport, right? Let NBA playoffs be damned. You can't run a zone against Jokic. He's going to make the correct play every single time, because that's what he does. He's gonna take the ball. They're gonna pass to him right at the free throw line, right on the nail. He's gonna play either a 2-man game with Jamal Murray and draw those upper line defenders out, or he's gonna pass it to a cutting Aaron Gordon along the baseline, or kick it to the corner where Michael Porter Jr. is. I mean, that's the way that I see the series going. I think Jokic is going to be able to do whatever the hell he wants. I heard a stat earlier this week that said when playing against the Heat, Nikola Jokic shoots 63% when being guarded by Bam Adebayo, and I think it was like 68% when not guarded by Bam Adebayo. I mean, like he might average 40.
Talk about do whatever you want.
You know, I mean.
So you're saying there's a chance he might miss this series?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe once or twice a game.
Oh my goodness!
But like I said, I think there's a way that Miami can win this. They really have to muck it up. They really have to play fast, which I know are two kind of contradictory things, but it could be a fast-paced rock fight. That's a possibility. But again, my pick is Nuggets in 5. I feel pretty confident about that, truthfully. I feel good about that pick.
Yeah, I'm with both of you, Nuggets in 5. I actually have money in on it, so kind of put my money where my mouth is, right? I have my Miami winning game 3. I don't know if there's any book that will take that series result in the 5 games and try to really pump the odds up, but I've got Denver winning at home in game 5. Or actually, is the finals is still 2-3-2, isn't it? I think. Either way, game 5, Denver's going to close out. And Miami's probably going to win the first game at home, and then Denver's going to close out after that. I just think, Bentley, you mentioned the stats, and Ryan, who's going to cover, Bam's obviously going to be the one covering Jokic, but who's going to cover Michael Porter Jr., who has zero conscience? That dude will shoot from anywhere at any time with anybody covering him, and you're going to tell me that he's 6'10", and he's going to have a guy that's probably 6'5", 6'6", maybe 6'7" if Strus is covering him frequently. You're not going to be able to cover all of the weapons that Denver has if they're able to muck it up, if they're able to muddy it up and turn it into a rock fight, as you mentioned, Bentley. I just think that maybe Miami's got a chance to steal it in game 7 if they can really get Denver off their game. But I just think a quick series for Denver, it's just going to be Jokic doing what he does, doing what makes him the best player in the NBA right now, and doing what has gotten him to the point that he broke the record for triple-doubles in a playoff already with an entire series still ahead of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 4 or 5 triple-doubles in this series just because of the sheer physical and skill advantage that I think he has against Miami's big men, whoever they're going to try to throw at him.
All right, I've got your odds for you right here.
Okay.
On FanDuel.
Yeah.
You can go.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Sorry. Denver in 5 with Miami winning game 3 is plus 700.
Ooh.
And you go the same thing, but Miami winning game 4 is also plus 700.
So I need to hop on FanDuel then, because that doesn't have the better props like that. So I got to hop on FanDuel too. So.
They have literally every single possible.
That's fantastic.
7-game
combo
layout. I'm looking at 60 different game scripts.
For all you degenerates out there, you got options. All right, so before we close up shop, we're going to talk about some X factors here in this series, but we are a veteran-founded, veteran-operated podcast here. So every episode of every podcast we have within the umbrella that is Backyard Sports, we'd like to dedicate each episode to a fallen service member. We like to call it our Folds of Honor Salute to Service. So this episode goes out to Sergeant Major James Sarter. He died July 13th, 2019, serving during Operation Freedom's Sentinel. At the time of his passing, Sergeant Major Sarter was 40, hailing out of Teague, Texas. He died in Faryab province, Afghanistan, as a result of injuries sustained from enemy small arms fire during combat operations. Sartor was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group at Fort Carson, Colorado. Sergeant Major James Sartor, we have the watch. All right. Now we try the most awkward transition in all of podcast history. Let's talk a little more energy here. So I'm going to bring up a picture and hope that Jokic wasn't doing too much of this in his free time between the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, assuming that he comes into the finals ready to go, and assuming Jamal Murray comes into the finals ready to go. Bentley, talk to me about a guy for the Nuggets, not named Jokic, not named Murray, who's going to be a difference maker for them.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this in the 30 seconds that we were notified about this leading into the podcast. The best answer I could come up with was Bruce Brown.
Okay.
I think Bruce Brown could be huge in this series because, like Ryan mentioned earlier, he just come off the bench. He runs kind of their second unit. Now, I know the second units are kind of diminished in the NBA Finals with the starters getting a lot more minutes because it's finals, right? But Bruce Brown, everywhere he's been, right, has been an X factor, as we like to say, for that team, right? When he was in Brooklyn, he played their pseudo center.
Yeah.
In multiple lineups. He was not the biggest man on the court, right, because Kevin Durant was there, but he was playing the center position and doing it effectively, guarding big men, getting rebounds, pulling rebounds down and moving out in transition. I mean, the dude is an extremely good basketball player, high IQ, very tough, plays every night. So my pick for Denver is Bruce Brown. I think he keeps the ball rolling in the 4 minutes when Jokic just out on the court. But no, he's gonna have a larger effect than just those 4 minutes. I think he's gonna have a really good series because he is such a cerebral guy and a talented ball player.
Excellent pick, Ryan. About you, bud? Nuggets player not named Jokic or Murray. Who's going to be the X factor?
Yeah, so I initially wrote down Bruce Brown.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. That guy knows ball. I'll tell you
what. An audible.
And I just want to say I completely agree. I think Bruce Brown provides a lot, especially when we saw him on the Nets. He would sit in the dunker spot, which is an interesting thing he does because he's not an amazing shooter, but he plays off the ball so well. And for the Nuggets, the Jokic off the floor plus minus is a lot of people, that's his big MVP argument is he most valuable? Well, his plus minus off, I think on off is the highest in the league for what you hit the minutes you need. But I'll switch. I agree with Bruce Brown, but I think Gordon's going to be huge in the series. I think the versatility he provides is massive, especially defensively. I know I read a stat that on the few possessions he has guarded Jimmy Butler throughout the year, he's been very effective. I think it's like 5 or 6 percentage points less shooting percentage. And if you can shut down Jimmy Butler, who's going to win for the Heat is the question. They're going to have to shoot the lights out of the ball like 60+%. And you can't do that for 4 games. Well, you can. It's just very difficult. And they have been, so maybe they will, but. I think Gordon defensively, I think he does enough offensively that you can't ignore him. And he keeps the off-ball movement, that Jokic thrives off of. He does that so well. He can space the floor a little bit. And he gives Michael Porter Jr. the space he needs to get his shots off, because Michael Porter Jr. does not want to go to the hole. For a guy as big as he is, I guess his back is hurting. He does not want to go to the hole, and I understand that he wants to shoot the threes. And Gordon, he moves enough that I think it gives him a lot of space to get into the corners and get the shots he wants. And I think that's going to be a big X factor too, is Michael Porter Jr. getting open looks.
Yeah, I like those 2 picks. My pick is a little off the beaten path, I think. I went with a guy who's had some clutch buckets, also a couple of big games when they really needed him to have big games in crucial games in a couple of series. He had 21 in the closeout game against Phoenix, 21 in game 1 right out the gates against the Lakers. And then he had 17 and 13 in games 3 and 4 in LA when, especially in game 3 when Jokic got into foul trouble. So gives them kind of a third, maybe fourth option in terms of a scorer when they really need to get a bucket. He seems to be getting buckets here in the playoffs. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is my pick for X Factor. You got to have a guy who can get you an ugly bucket at the end of the shot clock. And I think that's what KCP has been at times, especially throughout this playoffs. And I think that's what he's going to provide for them. If Miami's going to really kind of clog the pick and roll, which is sort of what I expect them to do in terms of really throw a lot of defenders at the top of the key as much as possible to kind of slow down that Murray-Jokic combination at the top of the key. So you're going to see, Michael Porter Jr. possibly get a lot of open looks, and he's going to have to knock them down. But I think KCP at the ends of shot clocks, it's going to be important to, for him to be able to knock down a shot or two that really either keeps momentum going for Denver or doesn't end up with an empty possession at a crucial time in the game. All right, let's go ahead.
I just had one thought on KCP. I would imagine he's going to do a lot of guarding of Jimmy Butler as well.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be.
I don't think they're going to ask Jamal Murray to do a lot of that.
No, it won't be Murray. It'll be him and Aaron Gordon. That's my guess.
Yep. Most likely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that could certainly play a pivotal role as well if he's able to pester Jimmy Butler in any sort of way. His length, I think, will help for sure. KCP's kind of a longer guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift over to Miami. Ryan, not Bam, not Jimmy. Who's going to be the guy for Miami to make the difference if they're going to pull this series off?
Yeah, I think the easy answer is Martin. That's not what I'm going to say, but if he continues to play like that, they have a chance. A role player. I'll caveat what I'm going to say. Where what you find out in the playoffs a lot of the time is that the teams that have the role players shoot well win the games. I mean that happens a lot in the playoffs, right? And because a lot of strategies defensively are built to shut the stars down, and it's like
make the other guys beat you.
Yeah, let's make Martin beat us, and he has.
He did,
and
that is 7 in a closeout game.
Yeah. I mean, just great. But I'm gonna say Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry can do a lot for Miami if he can keep the physicality up. He's old. He doesn't have the body type probably to play long minutes. I think he's like a 20-minute per game guy, maybe a little bit more. But I think, messing with Murray, messing with Brown, mucking it up as much as possible. He's really good at that. He's pretty good in the half court, pretty good decision maker, which I think they need because they can't win just off of getting steals and running out and stuff like that. So I think Kyle Lowry is going to be big in the little bit of minutes he plays, facilitating and driving, which is a huge issue. Kyle Lowry can still do it a little bit, getting into the paint and making people make decisions, which Miami doesn't really do a great job of across the board. They're really a three-point shooting team outside of Butler. And I think Lowry provides a little bit of that secondary playmaking. Defensively could be big against the guards that I think are valuable for Denver.
I think Duncan Robinson really goes hard to the rack, dude. He just,
really he was in the last series.
He was.
I was shocked. I was like, what? I was like, I've never seen him do that. He got that contract, and I guess that's what he learned.
Well, he sat out all year, and then was like, you need me to go to the hoop? Right, Coach, I got you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
He goes, I got all my legs under me because I'm old. Wait, I'm still in my 20s. Never mind.
For sure. Lowry, I think presence too, right? He's got that veteran. He's a champion. I think he can be a steadying force as well.
He's sneaky, dude. He's sneaky. He knows all the tricks.
Yep.
Every single trick in the bag, he's got it.
Yep, absolutely. So good pick. Bentley, who's your guy?
Oh, I mean, you got to go with none other than Nikola Jovic, right? Oh, yeah, not Jokic, Jovic.
I love that guy in the draft. I mean, a 6'10" three-point shooter. I mean, how many of those can you have? 10?
Now mine's a little more chalky than I probably should have gone, but I think Gabe Vincent has to have a really good series for them to win. My initial thought for this was to go Max Strus, but Max Strus is going to pull some of the larger defenders that Denver has, and I think their size could force him to struggle a little bit. But Gabe Vincent is going to be guarded by Jamal Murray most of the time, is my guess. And probably Bruce Brown's son, but Bruce Brown's a really good defender, better than Jamal Murray. But if Gabe Vincent is able to carry over his success from the Celtics series into this series, I think he provides them some alternative scoring options rather than just Jimmy going to the bucket and taking contested pull-ups or Bam on the pick and roll or whatever. Because Gabe he really spaces the floor. He can hit the pull-up three. He can create space for himself and for others too. He's an underrated passer, I think, off the dribble. He's a pretty good playmaker. He's a better scoring point guard than he is playmaker, but I think his playmaking is serviceable. So I could imagine a world where Gabe Vincent has a successful series being guarded by Jamal Murray, and really creates kind of an issue for Denver on the defensive side of the floor.
Yeah, no, good pick, and I think he is going to be important in this series to be able to kind of handle the ball and take a lot of the pressure off of some of the other guys, especially Jimmy Butler, who they ask a lot of him.
Yeah,
I was going to go Tyler Hero early on when I was kind of first thinking about this series, like if he does come back and does play well, but I had to kind of calm myself, like they shouldn't bring him back unless he's 100%.
Yeah,
and I don't think he's going to be at any point, so I have a feeling he's going to come back and he's going to get a few minutes and probably not make the impact that, they clearly ruled him out in game one pretty early. So it's clear to me that he's not as close as maybe they're leading on, or, maybe they're trying to play coy a little bit and get Denver to think about the fact that maybe Tyler Hero will be coming back. But, for me, it's going to be, pick your poison in terms of who the shooter's going to be. I'm going to go Max Strus. It's got to be him knocking down open looks when he gets them. Because, Bentley, you mentioned a lot of the open space that they had against Boston. Ryan, you mentioned the motion offense that they run. It's going to be incumbent upon whoever gets that open look to knock down the shot. It could be Duncan Robinson. It could be Gabe Vincent off the ball. It could be Kyle Lowry coming off the bench. It could be X, Y, or Z player. I'm going to go Max Strus because he is the guy that I think could have the biggest impact in terms of being able to get hot and be streaky and really allow them to execute in the half-court offense when they have to and be able to knock those shots down and make this a series that Denver can't just relax on the defensive side at all at any time. If he's hitting shots, you've got to really close out. You've got to be able to play the, everything. You can't cheat. You can't sag. You can't do anything. You can't cheat on rebounding, especially, which is what Michael Porter Jr., the only time he does go near the hoop is when he's cheating on a rebound. So a guy like Strus could make them stay more disciplined, and it could lead to potentially Bam having a better series rebounding the ball than maybe we think he will with, the matchup against Jokic. So it's got to be shooters knocking it down. I'm going with Max Strus as kind of my guy that I'm picking out he's got to knock him down. When he gets the open looks, got to knock him down. It's the only
let me ask you all a question. Is there a world where Jokic doesn't guard Bam, where they put Aaron Gordon on Bam and let Jokic guard somebody else and kind of play
help defense?
Yeah.
I could see that. I thought about that kind of momentarily as well. Like, what's Denver going to do? Because I don't know that Bam is a great matchup that you want Jokic chasing him around all day.
Yeah.
Maybe you kind of just let Jokic pick and feel. I don't know. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, that would be interesting defensively. Denver can. I think the switch on to Bam wouldn't be so hard. It's where is Jokic going to defend? Is he just going to kind of roam around? I could see that, right? Kind of, there's a very different type of player, but the Robert Williams type.
Play like an inverted boxing one.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you get in the way and rebound. And we'll chase everybody on the perimeter. The problem, I think, will be when Bam goes to the elbow, where I think Jokic has to make a decision there on what he's going to do, and so I think it would be valuable where he doesn't have to do that, but that depends on who Miami is playing. I don't. Yeah. If they're running like off ball stuff on the 3-point line, like he can't do it. But yeah, I do think there's lineups where they definitely can do that and allow him to sag off, like Jimmy Butler, for example. Not specifically defending Jimmy Butler, but like, hey, I'll let you shoot. I ended up on you. You shoot it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way out the 3-point
that
line.
28-footer, right?
Yeah. I could see that, and I think Jokic is better than people give him credit for. I think he's an average defender, and I think even out on the perimeter, like he's not the worst guy in the world to have out there.
I always said this about like Carmelo some years, and I've always said this about a lot of people will say like they're a terrible defender, yada yada. For me, it's a huge difference, and you just mentioned it, right? It's a huge difference between being an awful, unwilling defender and being a bad, willing defender. A bad, willing defender can play what you just said, right? Average defense, close out here, hedge on a screen there. Maybe you get physical with a guy that gets near the paint. You don't have to guard him on the ball 90 feet, right? But be a willing defender. And I think that's what Jokic is. And I think that's what makes him better than maybe his skill set would tell you he should be as a defender, especially as kind of lumbering as he can be, moving around. So, that's, I think, great points. All right. Let's get some closing thoughts here. Ryan, how are you feeling about this series? What are your closing thoughts here leading into the NBA Finals?
Well, as a fan of historic basketball, as you'll know, I'm very excited for the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets as a franchise have a really interesting history. They've been competitive for as long as they've been around. In the 70s till now. They just haven't got there. They've always been the bridesmaids. Not even getting to the finals, but the Dan Issels of the world and the Carmelo Denver Nuggets. Like those teams were good, and I want to see a good city win. I would like to see them win. I think it'd be good for the NBA to kind of crown a new this is our guy. And I think Jokic is maybe not the best media guy in the world, right? Like Giannis is really good with the media. Yeah. But I think Jokic is going to appeal to certain demographics that, maybe don't like Giannis. So I think it'll be good holistically.
Well done.
And I think it's good. And Miami's fun to watch.
Talking about Boston fans, right?
Yeah, I think Boston fans will love him.
Yeah.
He's first in the gym, last out.
Coach is good.
I think Miami's really fun. I think they play fun. I think it's going to be good fundamental basketball, and I think we take a lot of that for granted with how physical the guys are in the NBA and how talented they are. To see, your more traditional old school style of playing, except that the point guard is 7 foot. That's the only difference between the traditional style. But I really think it's valuable. And I think it's good for the NBA. I don't care about the numbers. A lot of people are talking about how many people are going to watch it because of the markets. I don't care at all. People who are going to watch it are going to watch it, and it's whatever. I think that's a bad narrative, and I think it does a disservice to the talent that's available.
Absolutely. Good point. Bentley, what about you, buddy?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
He's locked up. If he comes back, we'll let him close up shop. But we lost you there for a minute, bud. What'd you have for us?
Yeah, you're back.
You good? All right, sorry about that.
You're good.
No, so like it's just two completely contrasting styles of basketball, the way that these teams play, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these two coaches play chess against each other. It's to see the way that they're going to read and react to what's happening on the court and make in-game adjustments and post-game adjustments and going into the next game and then adjust on those adjustments. Like from a basketball nerd standpoint, I mean, it doesn't get better than the NBA Finals, right? Like this one, seeing Jokic, who we all agree, I think is the best player in the world. Okay, well, sorry, it's not James Harden there, Ryan. I can't do anything for you. So for people who know ball like Gary and myself, the best player in the world, going up against who we think is the best coach in the league and probably coming in next year, one of the top 15 guys. And we can address that when the season rolls around next year again. But for the time being, he's one of the best 15 guys, right? So I really think it's going to be an exciting series. And like Ryan said, I don't care about the numbers. There's one person that lives in this house, and he's going to watch every single one of these games. I did have. We had mentioned gambling earlier. I do have a fun prop for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So if you truly believe that Max Strus is an X factor in this series, you can take him to be the NBA Finals 3-point field goal leader.
Ooh.
To make the most 3-pointers in the NBA Finals. You can get him at plus 2,100.
Ooh, yeah, that's enticing.
My pick. So the favorite on this list, I'll just read you: Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Strus, and then KCP. So the favorite is obviously Jamal Murray. He's coming in at minus 145, so you got a little bit of juice. My favorite would be Michael Porter Jr. You guys both touched on it. He doesn't like to go to the rim, loves to take jumpers, especially if they run a zone. Jokic is going to feed him the rock on the perimeter. So my pick would be MPJ at plus 240. But if you believe in Strus, you can get up to 2,100. And also, if you believe in Caleb Martin to carry on his performance from last series, you can get him at plus 1,300.
Ooh.
So those are just a couple of
buckets at
things.
Strus. Let's see if we can get a big payday.
Honestly, not terrible odds for Strus. Not terrible.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Yeah, me too. I like it. Cool. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys. First episode back on Buckets. I really appreciate you guys joining. For those out there, we're going to try to make this thing a regular thing. Next week, we'll be talking. I think we'll be 4 games into the 4 games into the series by next Thursday. So, or I guess we'll be talking about Game 4. But I appreciate you guys, man. And for everybody out here at Backyard Sports, we appreciate you out there watching. We are out.